Hello and welcome everyone to our Saturday stream. This is our map and image creation in Fantasy Grounds Unity, and I'm Josh. So thanks everyone for joining us this Saturday. Hope everyone's having a great week, and we're going to be working more on this image that we started we did this last couple of weeks, but we'll finish it up today. We're going to probably have a little bit of a shorter stream today. But we'll see if we can't get this thing completely finished and all ready to go. So thanks everyone for joining us, as I said, and we're going to jump right into this and get going here. So here we have our alien hive that we've been working on. You can see we've created this like egg room in here. We made these little images, little conglomerates. And so we're going to build up, I'm going to do a little bit more rocks so that this kind of blends in a little bit better, these kind of things. So we'll do another layer of rocks in here, and then we're going to spill out and finish up these areas out through here. So one of the things that we can do now inside of the painting workspace here, so if we go into the paint tab, we have these handy little sample settings, right? So what I can actually do, I don't have to constantly kind of remember or search for again any of the images that we previously used, and we can just kind of go onto this layer here. I'm going to grab my stamp tool and we can just do this, and you can see here what it's going to do is it's going to load up all of the different parameters from whatever it is that we kind of clicked on here. So you can see here this is all of our rocks, and so any one of these rocks I can just immediately kind of grab and do this. So I'm just going to make this a bit smaller. Now we can use this in a couple of different ways, right? I'm actually going to let's open up our assets here. And I believe that these are all found in the desert art pack. So if we go into our desert map pack here, we can go into our decorations, and here we have all of these rocks. Now the main thing that I want to grab here is this hexadecimal code. I'm going to hit Control C there. And I can grab some of these now, for example. And we can add that right in there, and this will match that up there pretty well here. So what we can actually do is stamp some of these in here. We might even want to get some of these ones that are a little bit something that has a little bit more of a interesting shape to it, I think. Maybe something like this. And then what we can do is kind of begin to stamp some of these around in here. And we want to make sure we make this kind of believable in some particular way. Let me just grab this and this over a little bit. Now the other thing that we can do is, let me just remove this one for a second here. The other thing that we can do is we can come into our layers tab and we can add that color to our layer. So when we go back to over our stamped mode here, what you can see here is when I stamp this in, this will automatically just get readjusted to that appropriate color because it's on the layer rather than these elements here. We can change this here. Let's add in some new parameters here. And as you can see here, we can stamp some of this stuff in. We have our top shadows here, which are still going to be working with us. And then we have some mid shadows here as well, which are a little bit lower. I think that we want to make sure that we have them above some of those shadows. We can kind of move these in and readjust them appropriately here. One thing that I don't want to have happen to kind of create this layered effect that is kind of happening right now. I think what we should probably do here, let's move a couple of these out of the way. I'm gonna delete these ones. Let's grab some of these larger kind of constructs here, and we can grab these and drop them in. Yeah, something like this. And as you can see, that's going to create a much more interesting relationship between like the rocks. We're going to have like this built up of layers here, where we have the stuff sticking out from at some point. It's going to get a little bit more of a sense of depth here, and then we can go back into our top shadows. And again, we can just grab this guy, and we can it'll get all of the adjustments that we had done and everything for the shadow content that we kind of have set up here. I'm actually going to change this to something that's quite long, and we can then add in some additional kind of shadows, kind of cast off from these elements here. And we can build a little bit more of the feeling of depth, right, as we're looking down into this. Great. Now what we can do is spill out into some of these other areas down here. Now we have all of our different elements kind of set up here. We want to make sure that we use them if we're gonna do something that is in any sort of way similar, or like for example, if we wanted to create some more puddles of ooze, we could certainly do that by maintaining these layers here. We could just get into this ooze layer and use all of these adjustments that we've already done and just add them in there. The same with the eggs. If we wanted to put some more of those around, we certainly could. And in the bio areas as well, right? So one of the things that I want to do is, last time we kind of created these membranes that are going around these skeletons out here. We could do several layers of that as well if we wanted to, make them feel like they're kind of going up the side of the wall. But I think what we'll do is we're going to transition and create some additional kind of elements here. So similar to how we did this, what we'll do is we'll grab this little guy, and we can just grab this. I'm going to set up all of those parameters. So this is the actual image that we were using in our stroke to create this. We have a fade, as you can see here. That's why it kind of fades on the sides of it, the top and the bottom in this particular instance. But let's go into, and this is all comes from our fantastic ships elements. So we can go into our decorations here. We can grab something similar to this, right? We have some of these other elements as well. And this is the actual image itself with some adjustments. So we've changed some of the parameters, and we've added some color elements to it, and that's what we used to kind of go around the outside there. So why don't we try some of these other ones and see what we can kind of do to create some additional kind of this biomechanical elements as we move around here. So I think maybe we'll grab something like this. And this will take a little bit of experimenting, right? I'm going to turn it to the side here a little bit. And I'm also going to make it a little bit more square. So make it 4 by 4. I think I'm going to increase the fade here. Let's do 1.5. And I'm just going to let a line over here. You can see that we're going to get something along these lines. Maybe we'll go with a little bit more of a fade. I'm just going to test it out here until I get it where I want it to be. Yeah, something like this, I think. Maybe we'll even try it this way. This could be pretty cool as well. And if we do this in multiple setups here, right, what we can kind of create here, this is what I'm really kind of going to go for. A little back and forth here. So let's grab these and delete them. And then we can come back into our line painting here. And I'm just going to make this a bit smaller. And we're going to, let's do this section in through here. I'm going to line the wall here a little bit. And we're actually going to work on our transitions through here as well. We'll create some nice little elements, but I want to do something that's a little bit more, see that this feels a little bit less rigid. Yeah, I'm going to actually go in the opposite direction with this. And we can bring this in like this, and this one I'm going to extend a little bit longer, kind of bring this in around these edges here. We'll do this line a little bit. Get some variations. Maybe make it a bit smaller. Let's try that one more time. And right now I'm just dragging the mouse around, pulling down the button. Create something like this. And we can get rid of that one. Reline these up. We can kind of move this, that. Around. As you can see here, we're already starting to create a nice little transition here as we're fading out on some of these other elements. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And we can grab maybe something like this. Maybe we'll add in something like this way. That should work pretty well. And I'm going to make this a little bit on the greener side. Oh yes, this is the modern dark theme. How do you get the sidebar so small? This should be default on how you can do it. You can actually make it smaller. This little button down here will collapse them down to just icons, or you should definitely be able to do that. The black bars. Guess I'm not. Which black bars? The ones on the edges? Probably just the resolution of my screen. Probably. You mean one in the using the dice tower? In this particular theme as well, the dice tower is adjustable. You can change the size of it. What I like to do oftentimes is put it here. And then I can just, if I want to make a roll, I can just roll them directly in here. The icon is the same color. You might have more than one extension going at the same time. So I would check that. But yeah, if there's an issue with it, please let us know, and I'll jump right on there and see if I can get it fixed up for you. So what I'm doing right now is just creating like a couple of layers of textures here. I can come in here and readjust this a little bit. We'll bring this a little bit closer in a couple areas here. And we can delete these as well. So I'm going to do a little bit of a transition right here. So what I'll actually do, and In the chat, what doesn't show? Yeah, no problem. Oh, the eye doesn't show? Yeah, I'll look into that. Thanks for letting me know. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to turn off my stroke, and I'm going to go into the fill element here. And this element that I was using here, I'm actually going to, let's grab guy. I'm going to drop this in here. And I'm going to create a little dragged out section. Then I can come over into here. We can move this to where we want it. And I'm also going to scale it. Down here a little bit. Then we use F, fade out the edges. And we'll rotate it here. And you see we can actually control this a little. This in here. And fade this in here. We can actually grab this and drag this out a little bit. Oh yeah, no problem at all. I'm happy to do it. And you can see we can fade this in, get this nice kind of transition from one to the next. So it's not such an abrupt kind of situation there. We have a pretty good blend there. And we have this nice kind of thing in through here. What I think I'll actually do is we can go into our ground textures. And again, we can come over in here and you can see that we have these other ground textures. I'm going to match these colors up here a little bit. I'm going to move some of this green. So we can constantly kind of make these adjustments even after we've placed down a lot of images here. Now we get this whole new feeling in here. Oh yeah, maybe this will be where the queen is. A little bit softer and more organic looking rather than like the rigidness of some of these other elements. And now down in this section as well, I can do a similar kind of thing here. Let's go back into our rectangle. And I'm going to pull one of something like this out, like this. And we'll move it over here. Then we can switch back over into here. And we'll make it a little bit smaller. That. And again, we can fade out those edges a little. And I'll bring down the alpha. Maybe we'll slightly. And what we can actually do is maybe one back. Do it something like this. Oh yeah, you can make things kind of move, and certainly. Mm-hmm. So what we can actually do now that we have this kind of set up is we can grab this. This will set up those parameters for us with all of the fade and all of that. Maybe we'll do a circular one. I think what we'll do is we'll actually move a little like that. So now we have this like really cool kind of like instantly textured floor. Very organic. And we can do something similar too. We could do, we can go into our, stamp tool. Maybe grab this guy. And again, we can lower down that opacity quite a lot. To help fade that out a little from the edges. Grab that and add. I think we'll do, yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, so if you wanted to make this, we can kind of do some things in here as well, right? If you wanted to do that kind of undulation or a little bit of movement to it, we could also add in some, but yeah, we could go in and let's do, I think that this one, I have one that is on the membrane here, I believe. Yeah. In through here. Let's see if we add some of this stuff in over here. We can go into our effects layer, reveal the area. You can actually kind of grab these things. maybe what we want to do is lower down the bring this down. Oh yeah, right? That would be so cool, wouldn't it? And the other thing we can actually put in here as well, layer down underneath the rocks. Well, I guess we put it here. Maybe we'll put in like clouds layer. Oh, an Underdark theme? I haven't. But that would be cool. I think what we'll do is we'll bring down the intensity of this. You will get this like traveling kind of feeling with this undulation that's happening. And we can probably actually bring down that intensity a little, huh? Maybe the speed, like 10. Yeah. Yeah, something like that I think will be cool. Grab like this. And I'm just going to stamp this kind of around the outside here. And then again, we can go into this up rock section here. Grab one of these. We'll do it a little off kilter here. Create a couple of different layers there. Right? It's got like a hypnotic effect to it. I agree. And you can see how we have these multiple layers that kind of build up, create the feeling that we have some depth down into these rooms. Texture variations and I think yeah, it's starting to look really good here. So maybe when we were thinking last week about doing some sort of like draping viney stuff, maybe we'll do that on this side. That's right. You know, I make these maps for me, Drake. The players, you know, they're secondary. I know I always do. I want it to look good, even from like the GM standpoint. So I do all of that stuff as well. And in all honesty, if you wanted to do a loose kind of, you know, we could actually talk about that for a second. That's actually a really good point. Let's actually create a new wall layer. And I'm going to show you guys how you can set up visually pleasing aesthetics, and then you can also set up invisible barriers for the movement restriction, right? So what you can actually do is you can come in here, and so let's just set up some really simple kind of geometry in here for our walls. Kind of go in for like a visually Obviously, you don't want your characters to be able to move out into the areas here. So we'll set this up rather simply here for demonstration purpose. Okay, so we have this really basic, and as we know, a wall will block the movement of a character, right, and the vision. So let's actually just go in here, and I'll kind of show you simply here. Turn on our line of sight. So here we have our basic kind of understanding of visually get these bigger and broader kind of areas in here. So you can see I can climb all the way into these kind of sections. But we don't want that to happen, right? So let's go back into this area in here. So what we can actually do, and this is something that I will oftentimes use, we can use Windows and we can turn off its toggleable. We don't need to have the intersect going either. But what the window actually does is it doesn't block any um, visual information, but it does block movement. So what we can actually do is in these areas here, we wanted to have a much more strict like I double click there by accident. Actually, now what we can do is when we come back in here, the player will not be able to walk through these walls, even though that they can see up the sides here. So if we were here, let's here we are out in here, right? Can't walk past that invisible barrier, but we can see more around. Yeah, you can do the same thing, Drake, because as the GM, you can always grab them, hold shift, and bypass any barrier. So what I will do, especially on like bridges or something, even though they can see over the edge, um, I'll make like little invisible barriers to cliff edges or whatnot, so people don't accidentally move their tokens all over the place. So you can have a much greater visual expanse and then a very limited kind of movement capabilities. Yeah, just roll falling damage. Absolutely. And of course, you can come in here and do a much more detailed kind of job than that. But it can help separate the visual representation from the actual movement capabilities. We can delete that for now. Oh, it looks like that our opacity on this changes. I'll have to write up a report about that. Great. Yeah. Right? Yes. And what do you think we should do out in this area? Let's remove this here. And let's we can do some experimenting here. Let's turn the fill off. Oh yeah, some skeletons or hive waste. Yeah, we did these. It's kind of like odd things over here. So yeah, we could definitely do some more debris around. I think what we'll do is also create maybe some. Oh, we want that to be a little bit more relevant. Right? We'll have to do it on a top layer. Oh yeah, car. Gonna make some ridges along here with this. Make them all kind of coming from more central location like this. Yeah, we'll make like a little terrace, like this kind of comes down into lower area down here. We'll add some like shadows across this. We can actually so one of the things that you can actually do is we can go to a painted stroke here. Bring down the opacity. And we can add a fade to it. Maybe something like it'll fade out the edges. It probably needs to be a bit bigger. And then we can set up the readjust it here. And probably the second one will actually what we should probably do is something like that, and then we'll stamp in additional kind of content here. Kind of draw these right along here. I think that these should be a bit larger, but then we'll stamp in some of these kind of content like this. Make some nice little ridges here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. We can also do grab some specular highlights too if we want to make it look like a little bit shiny. Looks cool. Now we can actually use some of these. We can do like little bits of debris out here. So maybe we'll do like little scraps of like piece um, elements as well. And we can do all kinds of like bones and debris. Just some random kind of items here. We can go into, we can actually look up. We have these piles as well. We could even change the color here a little bit. Let's put the red away. What we should actually do here, I'm going to delete some of this stuff. We'll build this up a little bit more naturally. We'll start with some of these elements. This. Make it really feel like that there's layers of built up stuff here. Or down my opacity some. Yeah, some really cool amounts of debris there. and then we can grab some of this stuff. And I think we'll do see how like that stuff on the bottom. Yeah, now we can grab a couple of those other bits. Kind of throw this in the mix. And then we'll add some like shadows to it. Larger kind of dental shadows here. Yeah, very cool. Anything else you guys think we should add? We have to do a little bit better of a transition over here. maybe what I'll do is grab thing like this. Or we can actually grab, we should probably do it like we did before. Ship it. We'll do a little bit of a blend right here. We'll do it the same way. Just going to go into my tile level here. And we'll grab out that and reopen it. And we'll fade this out. Match the color up here a little bit. I guess we should probably rotate it this way. Map it onto the rock a little bit here. This will create a little bit of a fade off on that. Nice. Well, I doubt that that's true. I'm sure the things that you create are great too. And there we have it. We use one of the things that I want to stress in the creation process of this particular map is that we used a lot of different elements and in an inventive new ways that we normally wouldn't do them in that particular way, right? Like we created our little um, egg sacs and these membranes as well. Out here a little bit. We can actually come in and probably simplify these up a little bit, but so we created all of this stuff just with textures, and then we added like different roots on them for like veins and whatnot. We did the same thing here, created like these membranes, as well as the whole biomechanical kind of chitinous structures that we've wrapped our rocks in. All of the stuff is different images using the fill or the stroke painting tools with fade elements on them and color adjustments. So lots of cool and interesting ways that you can interact with the image workspace to create anything that you don't actually have, right? In fact, these puddles themselves were even just created just with a color fill. This highlight on here we should back off a little bit, but Yeah, it's pretty good here. We go into our ooze. Here we have our highlight. We should actually probably just adjust this a little bit. A little bit too much. Kind of a little bit more subtle on that edge. And here's our shadow on the other side. Making those feel a little bit more indented. Yeah, definitely cool. I really like these little transitions and things, and a lot of the stuff that we kind of created here. Well, great. Well, we finished this one up, and like I said at the beginning of the stream, I'm going to just be doing a short stream today. Finishing this up, I didn't want to miss today, but wanted to make sure that we got this one finished. So I'm going to actually be calling it here for today, but I will be back in full force this coming Saturday. So do you guys have any questions, or is there anything that I can help you with before I sign off for the day? Yeah, absolutely. I usually try to run much longer than this, but today I'm just unable to. So, but we'll be back. I stream every Saturday from 3 p.m. Eastern time, and we run until about 5:30 or 6. Ooh, nice. Oh, are you gonna make it for? Is it gonna be used as a battle map? So one of the things, and that's an interesting thing that Pete Bog just brought up, is that in our grid system there is a complete setup for creating. Yeah, well, you can do it at that scale. You can. I make maps that are that large. But if you don't want to do that, you can use the grid system. And so in our grid system, we have distance multipliers as well as the suffix that you can put in. And this will it'll do all the calculations for you, right? So if we turn on our grid here, I can say that this is because this will be set up based off of whatever rule set you have. So this is going to be rule set dependent. But in this particular instance, right, we're set up 1 to 1. So I could put in 5, and then I could put in my suffix. So if I wanted to put in feet, for example. Now when I am actually in play mode and I draw out any of these elements, it'll give me the exact um, distance and whatnot. Excuse me. Yes. But you can make much larger maps, and especially if you're painting out the images. So I've talked about this before. The way that Fantasy Grounds actually works is less about the size of the map because it's it's independent of that. Here, let me show you an example here. I'll turn off the fill. Let's go into our stamp mode. And I'm going to go into my assets here. And let me grab, I believe inside of, just to give you a demonstration here, why the actual size of the map is less important. Because if we go into our interior map pack here, right, and in our backgrounds, we have some finished maps. Right? And these are each one, if you were to drag and drop it out here, right, it's a rather large map. I think is it 18 by 18. So let's go into our painting mode here and go into our stamp. I'm going to grab and drop this in here. Now I can set this to 1 by 1, right? And I can snap that right in there. And now you have a full complete map inside of one square grid, right? So the grid squares are not really what you want to be concerned with. Right? So if I'm in here, I mean, this is just as detailed as if I were to bring it out normally. All contained in one square, right? So in my grid setup here, right, this is going to make this 5. That would be 5 feet across, yet it has all of that visual information in there. What you want to do is instead, not necessarily worrying about the size of the grid, but the way that Fantasy Grounds works is, like, for example, when we paint out a line, so if we were to go in here, if we looked up like stone wall, I could grab any one of these stone walls and paint out. I should probably put in brush, but here's one, like the stone wall brush. And go to stroke. So I could paint out this one particular image is the only thing that's going to get sent to your players. Right? It doesn't matter how many times I use it or how large of a map I create with it. Make a dungeon, for example, and I use a very limited number of assets. I make a huge dungeon, and it will be sent across the network very, very smallly because it's only going to send the metadata as well as that single image, because that single image is just going to get repeated over and over and over again, right? So we could continue to make our walls here. And it doesn't matter how large the actual map is. It's just sending this one single image across. And so, oh, that's okay. We're just talking about the difference between like the map size and the net load as far as what gets sent to your players. If I were to send this map to my players, all they're going to get is the actual metadata that tells Fantasy Grounds how to create this shape in this one single image. Even if I were to draw this out to a huge, massive map like the Dungeon of the Mad Mage or something along those lines. If I were to use like 3 or 4 assets, then it doesn't matter how big it is. It will still function exceptionally well as far as like sending it across. Obviously, the more line of sight that you have and all of that is going to definitely play into your player's experience, and depending on their hardware, right? That's another completely different issue. So if you're going to be making a rather large village, right, you're going to make it 1,100 feet by 760 feet. Then you can still interact with that. You can make a map that size. And there's a couple of different ways you could do it too, because you can actually change the grid size over here, right? So I have this set to 100 pixels by 100 pixels, and then a 5-foot multiplier. Now, if I want to change the scale of this, I can just say, well, no, it's 10 feet across. Or I could change the size of my grid, right? So we could change this to here. So now my grid size is completely different. Yeah, so this is all the map packs that I create for Fantasy Grounds. I make all of the official Fantasy Grounds map packs, which you can get either you can purchase them in the store or you can get the art subscription, which is $5 a month or $50 a year. And that includes, I think that we have, 40 packs out now or so, and that's yeah, you're welcome. So yes, there's a lot of discrepancy in there about the size of your is the size of the map is really less important. If we were to create um, a village, for example, we can come in here and images, um, create a new item here. Let me just expand this out. We'll set this to 100 by 100. And let's lower down that opacity. So let's stroke and we'll just clear. We won't make it white. We'll make it a little bit like this. That. Where? Let's create a nice big area here. So if we go look at our layers, this is 92 by 69, right? So we can make this 20 if we wanted to. So here we have a massive area here. And if we go into our images here, let's go to we have, oh, let's go to medieval buildings. It's probably a good one to give. Oh, that's machines. They don't have, oh yeah, good one. We have all kinds of different houses and whatnot. And then we can just go over in here. Start stamping these around. Not that one. As you can see, you can just start to stamp all of this stuff around. Yeah, yeah, exactly. If you were to, let's say, limit it to all you would need to do, what I would do, this is how I would do it, is use like a single bush, a single tree, and then a few different buildings, one particular texture for the background, and I think you should be fine. What I mean by a single tree, you can still, and here's the other side of it. If you go into, grab one of these trees, because you can do all of the color variations, size variations, and everything that you want to do. So let's grab a tree like this, right? I can change its shape, change its color, create a variety of different sizes and elements. And still, it's going to be the single image that's sent, and then the metadata is going to go with that. And that's going to also, so you can create a huge variety of elements with a small amount of assets. And you can make these huge maps, and they should load exceptionally fast. So hopefully that we can kind of, if you want to, on this next week, we'll go through and we'll build a decent village using a limited number of assets, and I can show you how to maximize that. You know, like one or two different trees, a couple of different bushes, some different plants. Well, good. I'm glad. But yeah, we can make a giant village, and we've made some really large maps here before. So be more than happy to. And that's kind of it's deceiving because it's really independent of the size of the map, because the way that the grid system interacts with it is almost a add-on feature. So, but yeah, we'll go through that next week. Now that we finished up our alien hive, we'll create a nice big village, and we can do all kinds of different stuff in it. I'll show you how to really maximize your workflow, and we'll have a limited number of assets, but we can use them all in inventive ways and create these really cool kind of environments. We'll do that next time. Great. Well, thanks everyone so much for joining me today. Again, I apologize for heading out a little bit early today, but we'll be back in full force next week. We'll create a whole village, lots of cool, interesting elements to it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much again, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.